Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Before I start, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's watched my first couple of videos, especially the first one I made. I really can't believe that many people have seen it. It's closing in on 3,000 views, which I really did just not expect for my first video. It's been a shock. It's been really great reading people's comments and having a discussion with people and listening to different sides of how people have found WoW recently and everything. It's just been really great. So thanks so much for the support. I really do appreciate it. So the aim of this video is just to talk about my first sort of impressions with Final Fantasy. Having recently come out of a 13-year WoW subscription, I really didn't know what to expect coming into Final Fantasy at all. Especially with an MMO, when you move into a different one, there's so much depth to them compared to shooter games or just anything like that. Like MMOs go so deep. There's so much to them, and people have put so much time into them. It can be quite overwhelming when you first start. With me, I chose to start with a simple melee DPS class, which was the Lancer. It just, to me, just looked the most appealing. Going into the Dragoon class as well, it was really up my street for something I was interested in. So I decided to go with that one. The overall aesthetic for the game really wasn't an issue for me, if I'm being honest. People say it's a weeb game, but I mean, I'm surrounded. I've got some anime posters in my office at home, so maybe I'm just a weeb and I just accept it for what it is. But yeah, that's how I've started the game. So let's have a look at like a different topics, and there's always going to be a lot of comparing to WoW. I've been playing it for a long time. It's the only MMO I really know, so I don't really have anything else to compare it to. So when it comes to the leveling and the story, I really do not have anything bad to say about Final Fantasy leveling and storytelling so far. I've quested in Classic WoW, and this was just an absolute breeze. It's like go gather two or three tusks from this guy, from these animals, and they were 100% drop rate, compared to go and get 20 of these with a 5% drop rate and a 10-hour respawn and 50 people farming them. In Classic, this really isn't boring or anything like that. It's super easy. People say comparing A Realm Reborn to later expansions is it's just not even comparable. Apparently, you just get so much better. But for me, it's just been an absolute walk in the park. The storytelling has been really fantastic. Nice bite-sized chunks of information in an immersive dialogue box, changing camera angles while you're picking up the quests, and cutscenes and just everything in between. It feels a lot more immersive than WoW, where you sort of just run up to this guy. You have a giant dialogue box, which 99% of the time you just look down, read the objective, and you just go off and do it. And then for me, I actually had an add-on, Azeroth Autopilot, and I didn't even, it just auto picked up the quest in like 0.5 seconds. And I was like, right, check my map, right, need to go here, that's it. You're not immersed at all, you're just racing through the content. And I know not everyone plays like that, but that's how a majority of people play it. That add-on has millions of downloads. I'm not the only one. Yeah, I don't feel rushed. I've not seen any boosts advertised to me so far. I don't even know how to access the store on Final Fantasy, and obviously that's because I'm new to the game. I'm sure it's there. I'm not saying Final Fantasy is great for having a store. I really don't agree with stores. It's not just me bashing WoW. I don't like the Final Fantasy store either, but I don't even know where it is. So I know with WoW, it's everywhere. You can press escape, and it's the shop's there. When you log in, the shop's there. The launch of the shop's there. Like, I just haven't. I don't know where it is. I haven't taken any notice. The only downside kind of, because I know I was going to say wasn't any, but I haven't really felt the need to group up with other players to get this like really hard quest done in the open world, which is something I really liked about the older expansions of World of Warcraft. Sort of, Hogger, for example, like, oh, we've got this big guy's like running around this camp. We need to kill him. There's no way you can solo it, so you need to communicate with other players. Maybe that comes in later expansions, but it's not something I've came across just yet. But yeah, overall, really, really enjoyed it so far. I'm level 47, I think, so I'm getting pretty close to Heavensward. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. Combat. WoW's combat is what makes the current game for me. It's so responsive, and it always has been. You hit a button and you do something. It's just that simple. Really, it just is that simple. As much as I hate the current state of WoW, the combat, I can't complain. Final Fantasy, it has been an adjustment for me with the higher global cooldown in the early levels, which is it's obviously a lot slower than World of Warcraft. But I have gained some spells that aren't on the GCD now, such as like a stun and a jump, and I've been reading more about spell weaving, and that the combat at really high levels does pick up. The combat I have been doing, though, I have been enjoying it. It's always fun learning a new game and different ways to play it. I don't want to go into too much nagging on the combat, as I'm still relatively low level and I'm still learning the game. I've only got, I don't even know how many hours, between 50 and 100. But I really, really, really like the spell building and the rotational style of Final Fantasy, because it gives you a lot to think about during the fights. I just really like that style. It's new to me, and I've really enjoyed like building up my rotations. Like, you press this, then you press this, and then this does more damage because you press that. It's cool. It's different, and I like it. So dungeons, group content. Again, WoW has just obviously just dominated this type of stuff since its release. Its dungeons are iconic. You've got Dead Mines. Just as soon as I say Dead Mines, if you played the game, you can picture it. You've got the nostalgia there again. Dead Mines, and they're just a blast to be in. Whenever the game has been bad, the dungeons and the raids have always been enjoyable. You think like the Warlords of Draenor, but Blackrock Foundry was an amazing raid, and that's one of the most hated expansions ever. But like I say, the content that was there was good, especially in the dungeons and raids. WoW's really got that nailed down. And with Final Fantasy, I feel kind of similar, obviously without the nostalgia, because I've only been playing it a couple of weeks, but the atmosphere and everything in the dungeons it's just been awesome. Like, I've been in caverns and going in mines, fighting big bosses surrounded by a fire pit. I think it was Titan, I think that was. It was just really immersive. Like, it was just an enjoyable experience to be in there. And then on top of that, I had a reason why I was in there. Like, I haven't done a dungeon yet without sort of being led up to do that dungeon. And I know WoW did this in the earlier days with like the Brotherhood quest line and going into Dead Mines and killing Van Cleef and just doing all those things. There was quests there was reasons to be there. Stockades was another one, but they really just lost that as time went on. You just queue up, go in, and that's it. Yeah, really, really enjoying the dungeons so far. And these are only a Realm Reborn dungeons, so I can't wait to get into the more recent stuff, because it's going to pick up. I know it's going to pick up. And then sort of group content in the open world, Final Fantasy has these fates that pop up, and you always see other players doing those and filling the bar to complete it. But as I mentioned, the only thing with the leveling I've missed is just communicating with other players to get that really hard quest done. I think I just really love that about WoW. It was that social experience forming guilds and forming groups, and taking down Hogger, or there's a rare over there. Let's try and group up, because you sometimes, if you were in the area, pit players are just randomly invite you to a group, and there's already a couple of people in there, and you're like, oh, do you want to try and kill this guy? And yeah, other than that, really, really fantastic. Obviously, I'm yet to try one of the raids, but I'm really, really excited to get into one of those. So, community. This is a tricky one. Without repeating what I've said in other videos, I'll keep it short. With WoW right now, every single player in the game could level to max level, kill all the bosses, do all the dungeons, and you would not have to speak to anyone, and that'd just be pretty normal, really, to do that. And I think it's changed slightly, but I know for the last few years you could just level a character sat in Orgrimmar, just pressing group finder over and over again, especially if you had a tank or a healer. You just got instant queues, and you didn't have to speak to anyone in there. You could just sit in Orgrimmar all the way to sort of the lowest level of the current expansion. So you could do that up until 50, and then you'd have to do like sort of Shadowlands intro quest a little bit, and then you could just queue dungeons up until 60, and that's it. The community overall is just angry, and it is toxic. But like I said, I don't want to repeat myself. Final Fantasy it's been a different world completely. This is from my personal experience, and I'm not a big streamer, I'm not a big YouTuber, nobody has any idea who I am. I'm not getting any preferential treatment or anything like that. I'm just a normal guy having a normal experience. I joined a guild or a free company, and within minutes the guild leader mailed me over some like deer antler mount, and just said welcome to the guild. And I think it said it was like 1,000 gil, but it's just like, it doesn't matter what it was. It was just that, oh wow, welcome to the Final Fantasy world. And I've been chatting to them, and it's just nice. The dungeons overall, I had one dungeon where this tank was, he was clearly, I think he was leveling like an alt job or something. Like, he looked cool. He didn't look like the rest of us. And he just ran in, pulled like loads and loads of mobs, and the healer was a sprout, like a new player, and we just wiped because no one was expecting that. And usually in World of Warcraft, that'd be either no one would say anything and the tank would just leave, or it'd be rubbish healer, rubbish DPS. Whereas instead, he's just like, oh, I'm really sorry about that. I'll pull like less mobs, and that's it. We just continued. Finished the dungeon, everyone was like, right, thanks for the run, guys, it was nice and clean, and that was it. It's just been such a different experience compared to current WoW, and I'm really, really grateful for the warm welcome that I've received from the Final Fantasy community. So the overall world, where you're just in and about places. Coming from Shadowlands, the world felt dead, quite literally. If you aren't doing your laps around Oribos, you're in an instance world with, either 4 players in a dungeon or 24 players in a raid. It's so instanced and layered and this and that. It doesn't feel alive. And then if you go like really deep into it, like even the NPCs in the older parts of the world, they're just absolutely abandoned. Like, there's no reference to anything that's relevant anymore. Not like, oh, there's a big hole in the sky near ICC. We know about the afterlife. Like, it doesn't really feel like a world. Like, you just play in the expansion. You're not playing World of Warcraft. You just, like, all that's gone, all that stuff in the past, it basically doesn't exist. Whereas in Final Fantasy, the world just feels alive. There's players literally everywhere at all times of the day. I've never logged into Final Fantasy and not had to wait a couple of minutes to actually get into the game with the queue. And then when I'm there, there's just people running around everywhere, no matter where I'm questing. Because like I say, these are old zones, and obviously I know they've got an influx of new players, but it just really does seem alive. And then the story I've done so far references everything I know about, everything I've done, everything I've been doing, everything in the past before, you know, I started this sort of story. And I really hope that that continues, because it helps you feel immersed in the world, and that you are actually doing something. You're not just another mall walker. You know, it's nice that you really do feel involved with the story. So yeah, really, really fantastic. So the final thoughts: overall, in its current state, WoW really just does not compete with the world and the community that Final Fantasy has built. It's lost that touch of an MMO and community that it had back in the older expansions. And we actually we really did catch a glimpse of this in Classic WoW, and I know Classic WoW was filled with so much drama, but the phase one of Classic WoW was so fun. It was so fun. There was groups everywhere, people questing everywhere. It was amazing. Like, it really was amazing to get that realm identity, that world identity back, and you'd see like server first with Thunder Fury, and you're just like, oh my god. It was just like going back 15 years. It really was good. But yeah, Final Fantasy has everything that I've been looking for in a game. I'm just having an absolute blast playing it. I'm probably going to do a video in the future as well, just continuing from this when I have a better understanding of the game, completed some of the raids, done some of the more recent dungeons, and just got an overall grasp. But I just wanted to get my thoughts down on that sort of initial burst period of, you know, this is the game in its most natural form. And like I say, it really has been a blast. So thanks for watching, guys. Peace.